You ever notice how folks will look right through someone who's lived enough for 3 lifetimes, just because their hair's gone silver and their hands don't move as quick as they used to? Yeah, that's what I was thinking the day I met Grace Hammond up in those Colorado mountains, where the air slices clean through your jacket and the snow just keeps on falling like it's got something to prove. 67 years old, former military nurse 3 tours in the Middle East, lived alone in this creaky old cabin, half swallowed by pines, a stone's throw from the ranger station. Her hands were all story-scarred, steady, never shaking in her eyes, I swear, still had that cold battlefield calm, the kind you only get from watching a whole lot of folks come close to dying and fighting like hell to make sure they don't. That February morning, Grace was just pouring herself instant coffee, black as the sky before dawn, when the emergency radio on her counter started crackling, voice all jagged, barking out the kind of news that make you suck in a breath and forget to let it out. Rescue chopper down, 6 people on board, crashed hard up on Ridge Peak, middle of a whiteout. And you could tell, even through the static, those guys on the radio were scared. Ridge Peak, you gotta understand, that's not some tourist trail. Grace knew every inch of it, had trained soldiers in survival their back when the Army still cared more about scars than degrees, when experience meant something. You know what I mean? She'd seen avalanches swallow jeeps, seen men disappear between those rocks without so much as a sound. So she pulls on her old boots, grabs that faded canvas medical bag, same one that rode with her through Baghdad and Kandahar, and heads down to the rescue HQ. Now, this new place, it's all shiny tile floors, big digital screens, a bunch of fresh-faced kids with the latest gear, thermal jackets, high-tech radios, the works. Grace slips in quiet, offers her help, and for a second you'd think nobody even heard her. Then there's Jake, young paramedic, all swagger and nervous energy, grinning, "Appreciate it, ma'am, but we need folks who can handle real conditions up there. It's not, a knitting circle." The team leader, Captain Stevens, waves her off, polite but firm. "We got trauma docs flying in from Denver. Best equipment money can buy. Appreciate you stopping by, but we're good." Like all those ribbons and medals ever saved a single life. Thing is, the flu had ripped through the team that week, so they were short-handed against their better judgment. They let Grace come as an observer. "Just don't get in the way." She just nodded, slung her bag over her shoulder. If she was offended, she didn't show it. Inside that bag, stuff most of those kids had never seen before: tourniquets, morphine syringes, field scalpels, all battle-tested, all packed with the kind of care that only comes from seeing everything else fail. Helicopters' blades whip the snow into a frenzy, and they're off, Grace crammed in a corner, ignored while the rest argue over rescue procedures and throw around words they learned from instructors who've never been shot at. None of them ever had a soldier's blood soaking through their sleeves while mortars landed, so close you could feel it in your teeth. Grace just stares out the window, scanning the terrain, cataloging every shadow, already calculating routes. Hours later, they reach the crash, site wreckage twisted like a dying bird, jet fuel leaking, blood staining the snow. Screams and radio chatter bouncing off the rocks, adrenaline and fear mixing with the cold. There's Cooper, young GI, trapped under part of the tail, gut wound bleeding bad, his lips already turning blue, breath coming fast and shallow going into shock. Their lead doc, Mason, looks green, swaying from altitude sickness, hands shaking so bad he can't even open the 4-kit. Jake's barking orders, Sarah, another rookie nurse. All textbook confidence shoves past Grace. "Let us handle this. We're up on the latest trauma protocols." She says it like Grace was just some old lady lost on her way to the bingo hall. For 15 agonizing minutes, they jab needles, press on the wrong spots, fumble with machines while Cooper's life leaks out of him, right there in the snow. Grace sits on a rock, watching her instincts scream, but she remembers how quick these types will blame the outsider when things go south. But when Cooper starts convulsing, blood pulsing through his jacket, the team's confidence falls away like frost in sunlight. Sarah's hyperventilating. Mason collapses. Jake's hands are shaking so hard he can't even zip the med bag. Grace stands up, all steady calm, looks Jake in the eye and says, "You want to bury this kid here? Or you want to give me a shot?" For a heartbeat. Nobody moves. Then Sarah, Voice trembling. She's gone. There's nothing left to do. Grace ignores her, kneels down, opens her bag, there's that scalpel with a handle worn smooth, bandages older than some of these kids, everything laid out military style. She slips in four into Cooper's arm, no fumbling. No hesitation, her fingers moving like they'd been waiting for this, like the mountain itself needed her to step up. 90 seconds later, Cooper's pulse is back, strong. April, another young nurse, just stares, mouth open. Jake looks like he's seen a ghost. Grace's voice turns sharp, commanding, splitting the team into roles, tying bandages, stabilizing spine, giving orders that stick. She has them working like clockwork, not a wasted second. Suddenly, nobody's doubting her anymore. And then, midway down the descent, avalanche hits sudden, roaring, cold as Judgment Day. The rope on Cooper's stretcher snaps, and he starts sliding toward a cliff, nothing but open air and jagged rock waiting. The team freezes. But Grace, God bless her, she throws herself down the slope, boots carving tracks, belt wrapped around her waist, catches the stretcher 10 feet from the edge, whole body straining, holding all that weight while the world rushes by in a blur of snow and fear. The rest of the team barely make it down, jaws hanging open. This woman, who they'd written off as too old, just outmuscled an avalanche and death itself. When they finally reach base camp, it's not just Cooper who got saved. Every one of them walks away knowing they'd been schooled, not by a textbook, but by living history. Word spreads quick. Social media eats it up. Picture of Grace, pants torn, blood on her hands, exhaustion deep in her bones, but those eyes still burning with that don't you dare quit fire. Colonel Torres, former Delta, recognizes the tattoo on her arm, Delta Medical, so others may live, and confirms she ran ops nobody else would touch. Suddenly, everyone wants a piece of her story. April goes on TV, eyes shining, says she saved him using stuff I've never even seen. She jumped off a cliff after him while we just stood there. Cooper, as soon as he's able, asks to see Grace, just squeezes her hand and says, "Thanks for not giving up on me." And the Army? They come calling, ask her to help train the next generation, because what she knows can't be taught by PowerPoint, only by living through the kind of hell you don't come back from the same. 1 month later, the team's back up at her cabin, installing a wooden sign at the trailhead. Hammond Pass, where lives are saved by courage and experience. Hikers, medics, climbers from all over want to see where it happened, touch the wood, maybe soak up a little bit of that spirit for themselves. Truth is, some people never really retire from duty. She doesn't need medals or speeches. All she ever wanted was to make sure nobody dies alone when there's a fighting chance left. And every time a new crew faces something impossible, someone will mutter, "Remember the nurse on Hammond Pass." Maybe, just maybe, the next time you see a silver-haired stranger with a steady hand and a stubborn look, you'll think twice before you judge what they can do. So what do you think? Are we too quick to write off experience just because it doesn't look shiny anymore? Or does courage never get old? Drop your thoughts below. Let's hear where you stand on real heroism and who you'd want watching your back when the storm hits.